going on? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Today I'm going over 5 simple card controls that you're probably not using, and I really hope that you will find 1 or 2 card controls here that you didn't even know existed. I got a lot of positive feedback on my last video, 5 simple card forces that you're probably not using, so I thought you guys would probably like this. And you've probably run into some effect that you were reading where it said, you know, control the card to the top by your favorite method or something like that. And because we're taught usually the same card controls over and over again, maybe this will help broaden your horizons. Because, you know, if you notice, we're always taught to do the double undercut or tilt or the convincing control. And these are good controls, but they're used so frequently that maybe you want to use something a little bit different. So I've tried to select 5 simple card controls. They're all extremely easy to perform, and they're all very different from one another, and they're all very convincing to the spectator. Of course, effective card control is card control that looks like there's no way you could have control over the card. And so literally there's 2 really big distinctions of that. You know, one is that a card is selected, it's returned to the pack in some way, and it looks like you've done nothing. And that's a very convincing and very effective card control, because your spectator will believe, well, there's no way that the card has to be exactly where it was placed because nothing has been done. The other type of convincing card control is where a card is returned to the pack and the whole pack is mixed or shuffled in a very convincing way that, again, your spectator is going to be like, yeah, there's no way you could have any control over that card. That is what is effective card control, and that is our goal, that is our aim. That is why the double undercut is a control I don't like, because this type of thing, cutting in your hands like this, it looks like you're moving the card to a specific, it looks like you're repositioning the card, because it looks so controlled in your hands. You know, when you're doing cuts like this in your hands, it looks like you're specifically repositioning the deck is what it looks like, which is why I don't like to use that. Anyway, we're going to start out with a couple of notable mentions, and you may believe that 1 or more of these notable mentions belongs with these 5 simple card controls. The reason I'm giving them to you is because they're also so good that it's hard to come up with just 5 simple card controls and not mention these, because I think they're just as good as the 5 simple card controls, but I wanted to at least include them to give you a couple of other things to take a look at. So our first card control, which may be your favorite, it's extremely good, is called the direct overhand shuffle control. You can find it in Card College. It may be volume 1 or volume 3. I can't remember now. It's been a long time since I read it. But this is what it looks like. A card is selected. For instance, this is the card. You start to shuffle, and you ask them to just return their card. So they're going to return their card to the pack, and you're just going to continue shuffling off. And that looks so carefree and so just like, it looks like there's no way you could have any control over the card, yet you do, which is crazy. Now, if that fooled you, you could see how that would fool everyone, and it does, it fools everyone. Maybe it didn't fool you because you obviously have an idea what you're looking for, but you could see how simple it is. And again, you can learn that in Card College, and I wouldn't hesitate to place this on the list of 5 simple card controls, although the reason why it's not there is because I wanted 5 totally different card controls. So, because I have another shuffle control that's on that list, but this is just as good as those, really. And you can see how convincing it is. Like, anyone's going to believe that the card is totally lost. So our next notable mention is from John Rockerbomber, and this is the hodgepodge control, which you can learn in his book Card Finesse. And that control is a control that has a cut that I don't really like the cut, but you don't have to use the cut. What it looks like is this, is that the card is returned back to the center of the pack, and you immediately fan out the deck and tell them, like, you know, your card is somewhere in here. What I really like about this control is it looks like there's no way you could have any control over the cards because you fanned out the deck just like this. And then in continuation, you would do a cut of sorts, but if you want to, you don't have to do a cut. You could take the cards, you can give them a shuffle at that point. You could do, like, if you do decide to do a cut, I would say to do like a triple cut to the table, or you could do a shuffle in your hands like this. Very convincing. It looks like there's no way you could have any control of the card, yet you do, again, just like that. So you could see that that's a very effective card control. Extremely simple, extremely simple. You can find that in Card Finesse. So that's a couple of notable mentions for you guys that are very simple, very easy to do, yet very effective. Number 5 on my list of 5 simple card controls you're probably not using is the bluff pass. Now this is a very old card control. It was published back in 1936 by Tommy Tucker in his book, What's Next? It was a book on card magic that was all text. There was no photos in there. And I remember that it was called the bluff pass or the fake pass. And the mechanics are pretty much the same as they were then. The move became popular, or the control became popular by Aaron Fisher when he published some finesses on it in his book, The Paper Engine. And I distinctly remember him lecturing on it in the International Magic Lecture, where he went over some of his finesses. And the advantage of the bluff pass, if you're not familiar with it, is it looks like the card is returned back to the same exact spot. It has a really lovely retention of vision, and the control can be done with a card selected and that you don't know the identity of it, or it can be done with the card face up. Now, personally, I like using this card control with the card face up, and the reason is because you just get this really lovely visual illusion where you'll ask the spectator to just say stop somewhere. They'll say stop. You'll break the deck there. You'll immediately turn over the card that they stopped you at, and you'll show it to them, and you'll tell them, try not to forget your card. It may be a moment before you look at it again, and you immediately are dribbling cards on top of it. So now they're going to be convinced that their card was returned exactly where you got it from. So you're going to tell them to concentrate on their card or whatever, and you can do whatever you want at this point, and you're all set if you want to do like an ambitious card routine where you can turn over the top card and show them that now it has come back up to the top. You can again take their card, put it back into the middle of the pack, do whatever you want, and of course it's returned back up to the top. So now you're all set for the ambitious card routine if you want to use it in that way. And if you are interested in it, I would urge you to check out the Hierophant, because you can find a really good effect in there. It's the bluff sandwich. Uses the bluff pass in a totally different way, but the move is extremely simple to do, yet very convincing because of the visual illusion of the card being returned right back from where you got it from. So that's number 5 on my list. Number 4 on my list of simple card controls that you're probably not using, we have a card move that I've been using for over 10 years. This is a card control from Nestor Hatto called the Perception Control. I think it was put out back in like 2012. It's very convincing. This is what it looks like. You're going to spread the cards, have the spectator touch any card they want. You're going to turn it face up and say to them, try not to forget your card. It may be a moment before you see it again. Go ahead, push it in. They'll push it in. And of course, under these conditions, you have control of their card. To the spectator, it's going to seem like the card never ever left its position, which is why it's such a great card control. It's a great optical illusion. I would urge you to check it out if you're not familiar with it. Number 3 on my list of 5 simple card controls is a card control from Chris Kenner called the Out of Control Control. You can learn this on his masterclass that was put out by Vanishing Ink Magic. It's a very simple card control. It's actually a lot easier to do standing, but I'm going to just show it to you guys here sitting. You're going to spread the pack and you're going to start showing the spectator some cards. You're going to ask them to just say stop anywhere that they want to. They're going to say stop, and you're going to say try to remember your card, don't forget it, and then you can show them that it's being replaced right back where you took it from. Of course, now you have control of the card. You can control it to the top or the bottom. I personally like to control it to the bottom. I think it looks just more deceptive that way. And it's this up and down motion which really hides the very simple move you have to do. So I'd urge you to check that out if you are not familiar with it. It is called the Out of Control Control. Number 2 on my list of 5 simple card controls that you're probably not using, we have the Lapal Automatic Jog Control. Now, I've used this for years. It's a very simple, basic card control that's very convincing to your spectators. It was a favorite of Gabby Pereira's, and you can find it in the Card Magic of Paul Lapal. This is what the move looked like. A card was selected, maybe this 4 of clubs. You don't know what that is. You're going to fan out the pack, ask the spectator to return their card anywhere they want to. They're going to return it back to the fan, tap it in. You're going to tap it the rest of the way, tap it in home. So that way, there's no way you could know anything about it. But under these conditions, now you can cut it to the table. In the original write-up by Paula Paul, he would just tell you to shuffle off at that point. You just shuffle the deck, and of course you have control of the card. But I've seen people do even a triple cut to the table, or even an in the hands shuffle, you can do even like a faro or a riffle shuffle in your hands at that point if you want to. It looks very innocent and looks very convincing. If you are interested in the move, I would also urge you to try to hunt down the magazine Cogitations or the Ego magazine, because Andrew Wimhurst published a finesse on this automatic jog control where after the fan is closed, you could turn your hand over like this multiple times before you do a cut or a shuffle, and it looks like there's absolutely no way you could have any control over the card. It's a very nice finesse, very easy to do, and as I mentioned though, it's published in those magazines, so you may want to try to hunt that down. Before we get into my number one pick for the simplest card control that you're probably not using, I would urge you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Leave me a thumbs up and a comment below, because it shows me that you're interested in this material. If I see that there's a lot of interest, I will do another video related to advanced card controls that you're probably not using, and that will require a little bit of practice. Now, getting back here to the number one pick for the simplest card control that you're probably not using, and that is the Mahatma Shuffle Control. Now, of course, I had to list at least one shuffle control, and this is the simplest card control that you're probably ever going to use, and is so effective and so convincing that it will convince all of your spectators. I've had a lot of success with this. Recently, I've seen that some other magicians have put out some new content related to this, including Ben Earl, so you may want to check that out. Now, it's called the Mahatma Shuffle Control because it was originally published in the Mahatma magazine back in 1901. If you do hunt that down, I think it was like volume 2, number 5, you will see that it was listed under the title of 3 New Passes. That's where you can read the description of it. If you don't want to hunt down that old magazine, you can also learn it in Forelli's Card Magic, and you've probably come across a description of this in other places because it has been published in the magic literature, or I should say it's been reinvented multiple times. You can learn it also in Francis Carlisle's book, The Magic of Francis Carlisle. It was listed as the no pass utility move, but essentially it's just the Mahatma Shuffle Control. This is what it looks like if you're not familiar with it. A card is selected, like maybe this 6 of diamonds, and it is returned to the pack, and then in continuation you're just going to shuffle the deck in front of them, and that's it. It's so natural looking, so carefree, and yet now you have controlled their card. It could also be done from a spread where you have a card selected and then the card is returned, like let's say it's the same card, it's returned to the spread, and then you just automatically just go into a shuffle like this. That's it. It looks so carefree, and it looks like there's no way you could have any control of their card, yet you do. So anyway, those are my picks for 5 simple card controls that you're probably not using. I sincerely hope that this has been helpful to you. Maybe you've learned a card control here that you're not familiar with. If you think I've missed something, or you think something belongs on this list, just leave us a comment below. There are so many good card controls out there, but I tried to choose 5 card controls that you can do anytime, anywhere, even from a shuffled, borrowed deck. Anyway, thanks so much guys for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next review.